So welcome back to the show, Coaching Family Special. As always, join my good friend Glen Hicks. Glen, how you doing?
Very well as always, Saul. Cheers, mate.
And the very special guest this week, João Tralhão, returning to the show, second time on the show. João, if you don't know, real prestigious career in the game, over 20 years at Benfica, has worked at first team level as well at Monaco. Someone who really knows about development at all levels. João, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here again and to be back and to talk about football. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Lovely, Joe. So, listen, you've obviously worked so many years at Benfica's academy. You know what the level is in terms of developing the players all the way through. Which obviously the Champions League final coming up. Watching the semi-finals and all those great games. When you watch a game like that, obviously, what do you think is like the main assets needed to play at that level, the highest level of the game?
Yes, that's really a $1 million question. It's always hard to speak about the qualities that the players should have to play this kind of games, but because it's a deeper discussion, as you can imagine, to achieve this kind of games, you need to have a lot of qualities. You need to be a complete player. And, this is not an individual achievement. This is always a collective achievement, of course, and it depends on a lot of factors. But players to achieve this kind of games, they need to be the most complete possible. And when I say most complete, I'm not talking about the technical dimension of the game or the tactical dimension of the game. Complete means that players must have a complete emotional control on these situations, how they prepare, how they play, how they deal with the results, how they deal with the situations. And this kind of emotional control for me is really key. And if we want to give a touch on the youth development and development of players to achieve these kind of games, I can tell you that, my experience back in days from the youths, of course, we never focus only on the technical dimension of the game. We knew that at that time players must be prepared to play these games, to deal with the frustration, in some moments of the games on these matches, because finals, they are always very competitive, and the most part of this kind of matches, you don't dominate the whole match. You always dominate, and then you are dominated, and then you dominate again. So you need to deal with this kind of situations of the game. So the emotional control is really important. And when you develop youth players, you need to prepare them to understand this kind of situations of the game. You need to make them understand that this route, this path over the years to achieve these games are really tough, and they need to have mental skills to deal with situations. So in general, it's not only about technical or tactical dimension. It's about all dimensions connected, integrated, like mentally, cognitive, to understand like how they deal with the social environment around the team, how they deal around this competition. That's really important.
Very interesting. So, I mean, the next question would be, how do you do that? How do you layer that into your coaching sessions? How do you help players develop that emotional control, prepare them for those, high intensity sort of games at the highest level?
Look, my perspective, you have two different directions in terms of, imagine, emotional control, or this focus on the task, this focus on their role in the game. There are two different ways. First, they need to be focused on their behaviors, on their task, on their roles on the game, specifically speaking in terms of their positioning on the pitch. But this is one question. And the second question for me, it's how to deal with the whole scenario, the whole environment around the game, around the clubs. First, let's be a little bit more general. And I would say that, when you talk about the competition, when you deal with these young players throughout the season, within the seasons, we need to I think we need, as a coaches, we need to make them feel the demanding environment. Demanding means that they need to stay always on time. They need to stay always prepared to train. They need to be always there, prepared for competition. This is one thing in general. But in specific, I'm a big and a massive and convicted coach, a defender of we should develop this on the sessions. We should develop this on every exercise. I used to say to myself and to my staff and even to my players that we cannot miss even one exercise. We cannot be not focused in one exercise. If we miss one day, if we miss one exercise, we can compromise all the season. And this focused every day on the exercise. And I will give an example. Imagine players normally they go mad with me in this exercise, and I will tell you in general the lines of this exercise. Imagine we are playing simple game 3v3, 4v4, 5v5, doesn't matter. But if you are playing, if you score in a 3 minutes game or 2 minutes game, if we score in the first 15 seconds, automatically we win. We win the game. We win points or win the game, or the team who's waiting, they come in, and the team who lose, they go out. And imagine if they concede the goal in the last 15 seconds, the same. Even if they are winning 3-0 or 4-0, if they concede the game, the one goal in the last 15 seconds, they will go out. So what kind of emotional control I'm trying to looking for with this kind of exercises? Imagine, this is a raw example. They need to be focused in all game. Even if they are winning 3-0, 4-0, they need to be focused. They need to be focused to score goals and to defend their goals. So they need to be focused, not lose control in the last minutes, or do not just go sleeping in the first seconds of the game, of the first minutes. So you can develop this in all exercises. And I'm a big, massive, convinced defender of this kind of methodology, because this will promote better players, more prepared players, not only technically speaking, but also in terms of emotional control and the focus.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, that is it really, isn't it? I suppose at those games at the highest level are more or less decided by individual mistakes, aren't they? Where lapses of concentration. I suppose that's what you're trying to train for. Well, Glenn, what's any thoughts on that? You want to come back with João?
Yeah, fascinating to listen in there, Saul, and a lot of stuff about emotion and emotional control and temperament. And I look at the weekend, just in sport in general, just across all elite sport at the minute. So darts, the young lad Luke Littler, he had a 120 the other day, Saul, and just because he could, he done a double 40, double 40, double 40, right? And I'm only referring to him, but then I look at the boxing as well with Usyk, and Usyk said something the other day that was quite profound. He said, "I've been watching you and planning for you, Fury, since 2008. This has been a 16-year plan." And the discipline he's got now, apparently, I don't know how factual it is, but Usyk, for example, has never been on the canvas. He's never been knocked over, and he's had this discipline in place. And then I look at the young footballers, like the young kid at Barcelona is just incredible what he's doing at 16, 17, Lamine Yamal. And then you look at Phil Foden, that's just picked up his 6th Premier League title at 23 years old. When you think people like Beckham and previous English stars didn't even play properly in the Man United first team till 21. And they all seem to have this temperament, don't they? It's fascinating to talk about the emotional control, but I'd like to know more as well. That whole jeopardy on the training gel. Would it be a constant thing? So would you think that would be a constant thing we need to do as well? The jeopardy of 15 seconds and just moving the goalpost and almost not cheating, but keep putting jeopardy on the game, because perhaps they can deal with it a lot more if we're really stoking it up a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I find it fascinating.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. I think this is, I completely agree with you. And this is a simple example how to deal with some situations in terms of focus and concentration. But for me, it's more than this. It's more deeper than that. And I was saying that I don't like to miss one exercise. Sometimes we say at the end, as a coaches, we know this exercise didn't work, but I don't like this environment around my staff, like or even around the group. This exercise didn't work. Yeah, let's forget and let's move on. I don't like that. I always prefer to prepare in detail, and prepare in detail doesn't mean that should be complex at all. too much complex, too much rules, too much conditions on the exercise. I think first we should create simple rules, simple conditions for players to be focused on what they need to do and not focus on the rules. Because when they focus on the rules, now I need to score in the first 15 seconds, but I just have 2 touches and then I need to play with my left foot or right foot. So this make them be focused on the rules, not on the task, and for me on their roles. And for me that's really important to create a simple exercises but very effective exercises. And effective exercises means that, imagine, I always like to play conditioned games or small-sided games, medium-sided games, because they play. And the 3 components that I defend that should be in all exercises are there. Imagine you play against opposition, you play with direction, you want to score a goal or you want to achieve some line, want to achieve some colleague like you do in the game. And you have the transition moment. When you lose the ball, what to do, and when you regain the ball back, what to do also. So I like to create these kind of exercises, small-sided games, conditioned games, or playing games with opposition, transition, and also a direction, because I understand, from my understanding of the game, when players coming in to the exercise, they are not low motivated, they are not focused. If the exercise is competitive, you will see that they will be focused, unbelievable focus on the exercise. And I used to say also that the exercise must motivate players. Normally, when we create an exercise, we thought, okay, informational, we need to make them understand what to do, the tasks, the behaviors they should do. Like, imagine, fullback, they need to attack, or they need to stay, or they need to stay inside or stay outside. We need to have this information. We need to have also the physical, the energetic dimension of the exercise. Like we play 30 seconds and we rest 10, or we do 10 sprints and then we wait and then we recover. I will add one more, and I'll always add one more: the motivational dimension to players. If they are motivated, like me, like you, like everyone, we will do an extra mile. We will do an extra mile in exercise, and we will be focused a little bit more. And that's why I think, because like I'm trying to explain, I think the methodology is really important to create better players, more developed, more complete players. And if we think about this, if we think, of course, behind, and we are not talking about that yet, we could talk, but behind this, we should have an idea to know the direction of our training methodology, where we want to go, and the methodology then will help us to develop players to go in that certain direction. But for me, the methodology is really key. And methodology for me, it's not it's not something that we just do to wait for the competition. We don't train just wait for the competition and create the freshness to players for them to be prepared to compete full energized. I think the methodology will help us to create not only better players, but also more competitive and complete players.
Yeah, I think you summed up there with the word there, competition. As you know, like we all know, working with elite players, and I'm lucky enough to work with players, the Premier League players, top end. When you introduce that competition, that competitive cauldron, that's everyone knows that, the intensity goes up, isn't it? You get so much more out of your session, and you're fighting. And I suppose that's interesting, isn't it? Because that's what you're trying to replicate at the highest level, that intensity. Like I always say, you want to train the way you want to play. I suppose that's key, isn't it? You're going back to your idea. I like your idea about, those conditions where, it's, you make one mistake, you're out, that's what it is, isn't it? And you're working at the high intensity, but you can see the goal in the last 15 seconds, you're 5-0 up, but that lapse of concentration or that casualness or something, you're trying to breed into players, and it's, where it's they don't even think about it. Glenn, anything you want to come back on that?
Yeah, it's almost like you're saying there, Saul. We're almost trying to create, like in our life, when we carry ourselves in life, we have life reflexes. You're almost trying to create football reflexes, where it becomes. There was something Pedri done a couple of seasons ago, and when he was in the emotion of the game afterwards, Barcelona had won, and he was asked in the interview, "How did you do that?" And he literally said, "I don't know." but he seemed a bit baffled. He said, I'm going to have to go back and watch it, because he's so immersed in the moment. He's running, like you said, automatically and on autopilot. And that comes from, perhaps like João was saying, creating that through, a good methodology, but creating such a habit of doing it from 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, constantly provoked, constantly challenged, constantly pushed to your edge. Because I think it's about that as well. Because this, please don't take this the wrong way, especially coaches at home. When children cry, it's actually a good thing at times in training. And I don't mean cry because they've been punched by a friend or cry because they're sulking. But we've all been there, that feeling where we feel when we're young, when we cried, when we just hate losing, or we hate failing at something, or feeling like we failed. So I think it's actually good. And I don't mean that in a punishing way to children. I hope people don't take it the wrong way. But I mean that in a way like they've gone over the edge. They're past their limits now. Let's see how they can get back in. And as we know, that happens, one punch in a boxing match like Tyson Fury the other night was in control, or one own goal, or one bizarre moment in a game of football. So, yeah. Again, I find it fascinating about, especially again, sort of that competitive cauldron, mate. It's all about that, stoking that competitive cauldron up.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. I think back to Gareth Southgate when he took over, and how he made a point of trying to, every tournament England had a player sent off or that sort of thing. He tried to change the mentality and the psychology, and around penalties as well. So that elite mindset saying, well, hang on, why do we always have these lapses of concentration? Those lapses, whereas you create a culture where maybe traditionally, other countries like Germany or whatever, maybe in the past didn't have those, those lapses almost. It's almost a cultural thing, isn't it? So you've got to retrain the players to have that mentality. Joe, what about like then with the youngest age groups? 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that the same sort of approach there? You having that intensity and those challenges with the youngest ones as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to follow up the discussion about this competitive, not only in kids, even in senior level players. Also, when imagine let's grab that example I gave to you, that exercise of the 15 seconds. If one player is not mad to lose in the last 15 seconds, I will say to him, something is wrong with you, guy. My friend, something is wrong with you. You are not a competitive guy. If we want to win, we need to stay mad for this situation. Sometimes when they come to me, oh, what rule is this? I said, yes, I'm really happy with you. I'm really happy with you because you are mad, not because of the rule, but if you think about it, it's because you didn't perform in the last 15 seconds, and that's good. I like that. You can call me names, but after 15 minutes, then we will be friends again and we will be connected again. But now I want you to call me names because the rule is stupid, yes, but it's the real rule in the game. If you lose the focus on the last 1 second, 2 seconds in the best games or the most competitive games, you cannot be a winner. You cannot be a competitive guy. So yeah, I like you to be mad. I want you to be mad. That's the point. And about the kids, the same. My starting point principle, when I started back in 24 years ago, when I started with the younger ages, my starting point principle was the same as now, exactly the same. And it was like, okay, this is a game. Football is a game. Of course, we want to develop players. We want to develop more completed players. Like they need to be good. Emotionally, they need to be good. Tactically, they need to understand the game. Cognitively, they need to understand what we are doing. This is really socially, they need to connect with the other teammates. But this is a game, and for me, this is the starting principle. Starting point principle. Like, if we don't consider that this is a game, probably we will not do everything to push the limits, like Glen said, to push our limits, to push our edge. If we don't develop to win or to be better, what's the point to be a coach, to be a teacher, to be... When we teach mathematics, we want them to be better. We don't want them to stay in the same level. We want to be better and better over and over again. So in football, it's the same. We want them to be better. And to be better is in the competition, in a game, we want to beat our competitors. We want to beat the opponents. We want to be better than the opponents. Sometimes be better than the opponents in younger ages means that, okay, if we play, I don't know, but I'm at a club against Man City or Arsenal. If we want to be better than them, we can set different goals in younger ages. Like let's not be focused on the result. Let's be focused on some metrics, like how many shots we can create in this game better than the last one, how many shots that we allowed them to do, that we considered, how many passes we did, how many forward passes we did, how many pressing moments we regain the ball back or not. So we can create different goals, but we want to be better than the last game or the last game against this opponent. So this is a game. This is my starting principle. And when I started 24 years ago with younger ages, like 10 years old, 9 years old, 11 years old, I always try to develop the game, not develop the skills. The skills are a tool, are a really important tool to make them be better, and to be better than the opponent. This is my philosophy, and this was my philosophy when I started back in days.
Interesting. I mean, listen, because you're lucky enough to work at first team level. Do you see that? I mean, because the experience I've had as well with those guys is that, majority of them have that, don't they? They have that high intensity, competitive cauldron, that natural. They want to win. They want to be better at everything. I'm talking about the players I've come across, those elite players. So I mean, do you feel that's an asset these guys have at the very highest level? They have it. And do you think that's naturally they have that, or do you think that's something you can develop? And I mean, obviously, then I'm thinking back to the youth development. Then obviously thinking that's you're talking about that being a key asset, and I agree. And then thinking actually, do you think maybe it's an area that's not necessarily really focused on enough in academy football generally?
Yes, it is different. It is different when we talk about youngsters and then we talk about the experienced players. From my experience with experienced players, it's not only natural. Natural, of course. Naturally, you can feel if they are competitive or not. You can feel in the daily basis. You can feel in the competition if they are competitive. And sometimes competitive doesn't mean that they are absolutely energized. For me, competitive means that they want to win, they want to be always better, and they are focused. And sometimes they are calm, and sometimes they are a little bit more anxious, but nervous. But it's not about that. It's about the focus and the concentration and the winning mentality. I remember some moments with experienced players that in the last minutes, everything was made up to be wrong, to go wrong. And the most prepared players, the most competitive players, they stay focused, and in the details they were absolutely amazing. They were absolutely decisive. Like in a set piece they scored, or in some counterattack we were winning and we needed to defend well, and we attacked, and after the counterattack they were there, they were focused on what they need to do. They didn't lose the focus. This is for me really important with experienced players. And this competitive, it's natural, but you can still working on it. And this is a good question, eh? So this is a really good question. Imagine, how can you motivate players, 36, 37 year old players, to be still competitive? They need to be competitive. They need to still be competitive. Otherwise, they will lose the passion for the game. They will lose the passion to go the daily basis on the training sessions. How do you create an environment for them to keep going and keep going motivated and keep going with some goals to achieve? This is a really good question with experienced players. And from my experience, we can do that. It's natural. They are competitive. But in some examples, when we arrived, I arrived in some clubs, not only Monaco and Sport, even in a second division club here in Portugal, senior level, even in the first team of Benfica, when I was 27 years old, we arrived and we found some experienced players not motivated because something was missing. Some goals, some setting goals were missing, some motivation were missing. And this is a work that all the coaches must do. And from my experience, I like that. I like to challenge experienced players. It's a massive challenge, but it's a very rewarding challenge because you can see that they can still going and they can improve and they can still be very competitive. With youngsters, it's different. Sometimes youngsters, they don't believe. You know, if I show you a picture now, we are a little bit more experienced. I'm not saying that we are old, but we are a little bit more experienced. If we can see, look, if you don't do this, I can say to you, if you don't do this, probably we will not achieve that level. This is very clear. You can see the picture very clear. But for a youngster with 16, 17, 18, sometimes 19, 20, this is very abstract. They cannot imagine what is going on, what will be the picture. We can see because we already went through that experiences. We saw a lot of examples, but they don't see. And when you call these players, your challenge as a coach, it's not make them believe that this picture is right. You need to create with them the right picture. We need to involve him. You need to commit him to create his own picture, saying things like, imagine if you do this, you will be rewarded in this direction. Tell me what do you expect from the next season? Tell me what you expect for this season. Tell me what you expect for the next 1 month, 3 months. And with this commitment, I think we can take the best of these youngsters. We cannot say that, my friend, if you don't do this, probably you will not achieve that level. If you don't do this, you will be wrong. They don't understand that. They cannot see. It's very abstract. We need to commit. We need to create a commitment between us and them to make them understand and make them believe that the path and the route is this.
Interesting. Glenn, you want to come back on that?
Yeah, another good point there about, and that seems to be a constant thing as well, Saul, connecting and then reconnecting, because, you know, it only takes, with all of us, even as coaches as well, if we've all been coaching 20, 25 years, and you all have moments in your own coaching as well where you may be a bit disconnected from your own goals. So it's relatable for everyone in the game, especially you've been in it a long, long time. And especially with young children, they're quite emotional, aren't they? They're quite up and down. So that's just a big point about reconnecting to their targets and their goals and involving them and stuff. But just want to take it back to people like Phil Foden, Saul, and I think we've got to get the word learning in here as well. And in terms of like the most elite, you know, because I see nothing but a teacher in Pep Guardiola and what he's done with Phil Foden the last 6 years. It is phenomenal. And even when he's publicly coming out only 3 weeks ago, when Foden's about to win the Player of the Year award, best player in the Premier League, and he says to him, he's learning how to play with tempo rather than this. And we know what it's like, this very English or British thing about, 100 miles an hour, get stuck in, run. And let's be honest, that was Phil Foden at 17, 18. It was exceptional, by the way, because he went on to win the World Cup with England at under 17s level. Let's not forget that. So he was always exceptional. But Pep knows what it took Messi to have by the time he was 20, 21, 22. And I just think that as well as the competitive stuff, so I think there's exceptional learners. I think if you've got something like João, if João gives a first team player something that the first team player's bright enough to know this is going to make me better, I think that stokes the competitive edge. Because if I'm competitive with you, Saul, and we both go to João and I listen to João and I take it on board and you don't listen and I get ahead of you, I think that's where the buy-in comes in as well. So I think it kind of ties up the learning and that competitive nature. And it's a big responsibility on us because the better the players, I believe the harder it is to find those details and like the exceptional small details to make the big differences.
Absolutely.
I suppose that's it, Joe, isn't it? I mean, you're working at first team level. The gains are a lot smaller, isn't it? You know, those percentages, those marginal gains as they're called, whereas obviously you work with young players, there's so much, you know, it's easier to see those things, you know, and impact them straight away. I mean, I just want to go back to your point there, because I think, you know, a lot of obviously grassroots coaches listen to this and parents obviously are players. I mean, the takeaways for those guys, I think it's the same thing as about, you know, you always got to be challenging players, whatever their level are, wherever they're playing, you know, girls, boys, any ages. And I go back to my time at Chelsea in the nines, you know, every session we used to finish with like a, you know, small sided game tournament, you know, 3 teams or 4 teams. If you win, you move up, you lose, you move down, you win, like you say, you're off, you lose, you're off. Just that competitive cauldron, you know, that intensity and that drive. And it's, you know, whether you're, you know, working in academy football or you're working in grassroots and have those kids, you know, like an hour a week, you can still have that, you can still challenge them and give them that, right, and have that intensity. So as we know, when you're training that high intensity, that's when you get those really interesting outcomes. Are there any other tips you could give to coaches maybe who work with children in grassroots, João, who can really challenge them like that? Maybe only have them an hour a week or stuff like that.
Yes, I think we can connect both inputs from you, Saul, and Glen also about Phil Foden and how we can impact on these learning skills of our youngsters. Look, I think Pep Guardiola, of course, it's the perfect example, because I also completely agree. He's a teacher, because he knows the direction where he wants to follow the learning of the learning process. He has a very unique idea. He has a very clear idea in how we want his team to play, how we want their players to play his game. So he knows the direction, and for me, this is the key, the direction to follow. And when you see some grassroots coaches everywhere in the world, not in Great Britain, everywhere in the world, and I know some examples around the world, that I think the problem is not to fill the players with the most skills possible. This is not the point. You don't want to fill them with the most tools possible. This, for me, this is not correct. And then let's see what they do. I'm not also. We have two edges. This is one. Just try to fill with a lot of skills, like playing every position, play with left and right, and of course this is important. But I'm trying to make you understand that feel everything and without a direction. This is one edge, and the other edge, the other extreme is just be very specific, very completely specific, and from 9 years old, 10 years old, just develop specific behaviors from fullback to a kid, and it will be always fullback. No, this is two extremes. I think the right is in the middle, or in between the middle. And for me, the key word is idea. We need to have an idea. We need to have an idea to promote our players and to develop our players. Imagine, of course, if we have an idea in how the tempo should be, let's not talk about the system or fullback or winger. I'm not talking about that, but imagine, Glenn spoke about the tempo, how the players must manage the tempo of the game, must understand the tempo. And if you have a clear idea in how you want to play in a certain culture, of course, it's easier to make players understand and to learn a certain style, a certain way of playing, a certain way of see football, a certain way to live football. Like, imagine, I lived and I grew up in a big club like Benfica. Everyone there wanted to win, wanted to be better every day, over and over again. And this kind of environment promote this winning mentality on us. Like, okay, if we want to play, and if we want to win, if we want to play in the first team level, of course, if you are 16, 17, sometimes 10, sometimes 11, we need to be better than the opponent. We need to sometimes we will lose, for sure, and we will lose a lot of times. And then we need to deal with that. But we need to be better in the game. We need to stay connected with our philosophy, with our idea, with our way of playing. This is for me the most important thing. Like, okay, we cannot play counterattack. If you want to win in some ages, if you play counterattack, probably you will be better than the opponent, because the opposition will be unbalanced. And if you are very specialist, very good in counterattack, you are a specialist in counterattack, probably you can win a lot of games. Doesn't mean that you are teaching your players to be better and to be competitive. I think let's grab this example. Like you want your players to have tempo, to manage the tempo. They need to understand when they need to accelerate, when they need to break the game, when you need to pause, when you need to play, when you need to go on the goal. And those principles, I'm trying to talk about principles. Principles are connected with your game idea, because there are different ideas, many different ideas. Every coach has one idea, some more similar, some others not, but every coach has an idea. And this, for me, this is a key word, idea. And then when you build an idea, then you build your principles. Like, okay, if I have an offensive idea, offensive style of play idea, how should be my principles when I build up, when I'm close to the goal, opponent's goal, when I'm in the second phase preparation, when I lose the ball, what should I do? And these kind of principles, that's why I believe Pep Guardiola is a master. He's a master in terms of learning process, because he knows exactly and he has a very clear idea in what is the direction to follow. Not only Pep Guardiola, of course. You have a lot of examples, but Pep Guardiola is a really good example. And for grassroots coaches, I'm not saying that they should be completely specific in those ages, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15. But if they have principles, it's easy to teach the players, teach the youngsters to learn the game. Like, simple example, you lose the ball. You need to react fast, quickly. You need to press the most closest players. You need to press. You need to break the initiative from the opponents. Things like that. If you have the ball, if you are free, go to the goal. If you are not, keep the ball, keep the possession. Simple principles to make players to understand. And then, of course, the other part. Play with the right, play with the left, control the ball, hold the ball, control the opponent 1v1. Then you will go in these details to make players more prepared to play your game.
Interesting. Glenn, anything will come back there?
Yeah, it's interesting. All the stuff about the principles is, what I've really enjoyed watching the last 8 to 10 games, so is Crystal Palace. And I think the change of direction from a Roy Hodgson team, and we all know what a wonderful career Roy Hodgson's had and what a fantastic, he's been all around Europe, just one of the best British coaches, in my opinion, one of the best English coaches. But when I'm watching Eze and Elise and Mateta the other day against, all right, Aston Villa might have been on their holidays, they might have still been recovering from a party or whatever, but I'm just watching, there's a little bit more freedom. You was talking there, Joel, about being specific, and I think whether that's with young kids or senior first team players like Iberi, Eze, I'm just watching him shoot with this little bit more freedom. And I'm watching, there was a 6v3. If you watch the goal where it goes into Mateta, he rolls one off of inside of his heels and Elise scores. Press pause when Eze picks it up. It's 6 defenders against 3 attackers. But because their idea, like Joel's saying, is they've been practicing this stuff. You see Eze draw the screening player in. You can see what he's doing. He just plays off his front foot. He leaves it off his heels. It's just one of the best goals of the weekend, Saul. But I'm interested to see what level they're going to go to next. I really am, because I think there's a different idea. It's the same group of players, but I think they're going in a different direction. And I just prefer to, I really enjoy it. I've just really enjoyed watching them. And my encouragement to coaches, Saul, would be, go with that stuff a little bit more with the kids as well, in terms of like the freedom and the expression, and be willing, be ready to help them when they foul. Is the main thing, because even with the emotions, like we were saying, when kids lose their emotions, it's our duty to help them. Pep Guardiola has a different duty. It's his duty to win. He's getting paid to do that, but we have a duty to help them through it when either the skills or the emotions let them down and they ain't quite got the resources to cope. But it made me think of Crystal Palace when Joe was talking about that idea thing. I think there's a different idea come in with slightly different principles, and you're seeing it come out at the top level at Palace.
Yeah, that's top. That's a top example, Glenn. And look, and to complete that, just to follow up that, I follow Crystal Palace also, and I agree with you. I think they are doing an amazing job. Of course, the foundations are there from the past, from the former coaches, the really good coaches from the past. But let's grab this example and look, when you have an idea, when you have a direction, and then you train over that on that direction, you train. And for me, you should have the right openness on the exercise, on the sessions, to make players to express their creativity, and should be open, should not be completely closed. The exercise shouldn't pattern. I'm not a follower of pattern movements because I think it's very limited, and this is not the way players should understand the game, because sometimes you don't have opposition, you don't have the game environment. I like always more playing games, conditioned games, and you should open the exercise enough to promote the creativity and decision making. And when they play in those limits, okay, you know your idea, you know your direction, but you open the exercise enough for them to express creativity and to express decision making. And when they repeat and repeat over and over again, all days throughout the seasons, they will become specialists, not only to doing that, but to play with their teammates. They understand the teammates. They understand when Olise gets the ball on the right and he comes inside and he cuts inside with his left footed, Mateta already know what to do, because they repeated, because they know what to do. Everyone knows what to do. They have a direction, they have an idea, and Mateta, he understands what Olise will do because they practiced. I can tell you, I didn't see, but I can imagine how many minutes they practice this movement. When he's coming inside with his left foot, what he should do, Mateta, what the winger in the opposition and the opposite side should do, what the fullback in the same side would do. So everyone in that situation, everyone knows what to do, and everyone knows what kind of qualities has, imagine, Olise when he comes inside. And this is, for me, is the most important thing. Everyone knows what to do, and everyone knows his teammates in a synchronized way. And how do you find this synchronized way? Is first having a direction, have an idea, and then repeat and train, repeat and promote exercises for them to express your idea and express also creativity and decision making.
João, fantastic. We'll let you go, mate, because obviously I know you're a very busy man. Appreciate your time. Really insightful, really amazing. Lovely to chat again. Hopefully see you in person again soon. Glen, thanks very much as well, guys. And yeah, it's been fantastic. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Saul. Thank you so much, Glen. See you soon.
Thank you, Joe.
It was amazing.
See you soon.
Really good. Thank you.